I'm going to show you how I audit my stuff and how I create a meal plan to save myself some time and some money and also help reduce food waste throughout the week. So come on. Start with, I've got my jasmine rice and my big old bag of flour from Costco. Um, it's the best way to go. So I must keep rice at all times in the house because it's an awesome base, especially if you have nothing left in the house, you're on a budget, you can't get to the store, or whatever the case is. And flour, the same thing. I love making flatbreads out of it, making muffins, whatever you can think of, because bread products have gotten expensive. Speaking of which, I do have a little bit of Dave's Killer Bread sitting around for sandwiches and stuff like that when I don't have time to make flatbreads or breads of my own. And I get that from Costco too, because you can get it for half the price as any other store. Here in Hawaii, I'm sure our costs are a lot more than most people in the United States, but Costco definitely saves me money over the other stores. And we do have a Walmart that helps with some budgeting, but it's not a super Walmart. So I'm kind of stuck with the more expensive stores or Costco. And speaking of Costco, I do have one case each of the tomato sauce, the organic black beans, and the tomato paste. Those of which come from Costco as well. When you have rice and beans in your pantry, you can make it pretty much whatever you want. You can make, all kinds of different things with very little extras, which is super helpful on budget days. Quinoa. I really love quinoa. I'm pretty much the only person in the family that likes it, so it lasts a while. And I was digging in the back of the pantry while I was grabbing all this out, and I found some roasted garlic grains that I didn't even know I had. Didn't even remember I had. They come in little packets like this, so they're super convenient, it looks like. And I'm going to have to give that a try this week. I have some pasta. Again, that actually comes from Costco because they end up being about $1 each. And between the quinoa, the pasta, the flour, the rice, and this, I'm not going to have to buy any bases for the week, it looks like. I have 6 of these taco shells left, so I'm hoping to get some tacos in for the week. Peaches, which I don't know, maybe I'll make a treat or something with those. I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely going to use it this week. And then I scored a can of jackfruit on sale for less than $3, which is crazy around here because they're usually closer to $7. So even though that's more than I like to spend, I grabbed it. And I've got a can of black-eyed peas that I got for, I believe, 93 cents at Walmart. Finally, in the pantry are my legumes. Split peas, which I just bought at Walmart last payday. I've got a half a bag of lentils left that also came from Walmart, I believe, last payday. And I've got some dried garbanzo beans here that, whoops, have been sitting around for a while, as you can see. Like these grains, I totally forgot I had them, so I'm going to try to make those work this week. And this is what I've got, which makes me happy because thanks to putting effort into stocking my pantry, I already have a really great base to start with because my budget for the grocery store this week is like around $40. First up from the freezer are the proteins that I found, which was some sockeye salmon, tofu, and chicken. And yes, they all came from Costco because I can't afford even the tofu at the regular stores. About $4 each, but at Costco they're about $1.25 each when you buy them in the pack. And then I also found a big old bag of chili. So that's another protein source that I could use for the week. I made that probably 3 weeks ago or so. Kind of forgot about it. Again, came from Costco. They've been in there a couple months. Frozen broccoli, veggie stir fry. We also have some broccoli stir fry, which I use for a lot of things, not just stir fry. pasta, casseroles, soups. Some corn. While I was digging in there, I totally forgot about this too. Some vegan hot dogs that, I don't know, those must have been in there for a good 6 months. Zucchini, spinach. All right, and then we basically top everything off with some frozen fruit. We've got a Tropical Glow, which is a smoothie blend. Super easy. It's very gingery, though, to me. I like ginger in food, but for some reason in the drinks, it really makes my throat and my chest kind of burny, and I don't like that. So that's pretty much for my husband. But I love the 3-berry blend and the Daybreak. All right, so the fridge is where I'm usually lacking by the time payday comes around, because I like to pretty much buy what I'm going to use, and if there are leftovers and stuff in there, by then I've either eaten them or frozen them for later. So it's kind of sad. Told you it's sad. Got a little mustard. Tofu I found for 59 cents the other day when I took my mom to the store. Couple cabbages, a little bit of condiments. Looks like I'll do some condiment making this week. 1 block of cheese I got for $2 at Walmart. And some of the white bean cheese sauce that I'm going to use up before I even think about digging into that cheese. That's it. Yeah, I forgot to show you that I have a spice rack that I like to do a quick audit on, but honestly, I don't do too much. I just check the bottles and see if any look low, and then determine whether I use it a lot, and if so, then I know it needs to go on the list, and if not, then I know I got a little bit before I have to worry about it. One thing I want to address is, yes, I do have some animal protein and dairy in my fridge and freezer. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not all or nothing. I've been there and done that. I keep things heavy on the plants, which means I build my meals around all the plants. And if I want to add a little bit of chicken or fish or even a little dairy, I'm going to do that. So I'll show you that I use a audit sheet and a grocery list sheet from a meal planning kit that I put together because I was tired of writing it out on paper. Just nilly-nally. I kind of wanted a system. So when I audit my kitchen, I like to write everything that I find in each section down in its own little section, just so that I can keep everything kind of organized and make sure that I don't forget anything that could be useful for the week. Then after I do that, I like to go through and put checks by everything that sounds pretty good and that I'm going to want to make for the upcoming week. If I plan to do some meal prepping because I know I'll be busy on a certain day, like this coming Thursday, I need to make some pasta, and I start planning out breakfasts and stuff, I'll write that down too. And from all that information, I start creating my grocery list that I will use to make sure I stay on track at the store. A piece of paper is totally easier, even in your head. If you just take a quick head note of what you have in your pantry and your fridge and your freezer, you can, start planning some meals kind of around that and save yourself some money, save yourself a little bit of time, because you'll know ahead of time basically how that week's going to go. I learned 2 things during today's audit, which number 1 is I did not do a very good job last time because there's a couple things that I found that I had missed. And number 2, it looks like I'm pretty set. I've been building up, obviously, and not using everything that I did put in my pantry and my freezer too much in the last couple of weeks. So I think I'm going to challenge myself, and for at least this next week, I'm going to use 10 of my $40 to grocery shop, and I'm going to put that other 30 away for Costco so that I can stock up on some of the bulk stuff and save some money. So I'm ready for the store, and that's going to do it for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.